11 Bang Bang Reload show starts now.
Okay, and we are live. Hello, everybody. This is the, I guess you'd call it the tale of two Ethans tonight, who both love muzzleloading. I'm Ethan Woods, as you all know, and you're watching the 11 Bang Bang Reload show, and I think this is the first time I've ever hosted this thing, so you'll have to bear with us. But here we have the man who really needs no introduction. Let's see, right over there. That is the other Ethan, and I'll let him introduce himself and tell us about what he does. So go ahead.
Well, I think it goes, hi, I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading. I'm
Yes,
Ethan
there you go.
From the I Love Muzzleloading YouTube channel and website. Just a passionate muzzleloading enthusiast out here. I guess I should say, I joke with a couple other Ethans I know that I'm the uglier Ethan, but maybe the smarter Ethan. So we're going to have to come up with some kind of dynamic here, Ethan.
Okay.
To keep the Ethans separate. So we'll work on that this evening, but I think we can get it ironed out.
Okay, yeah. All right, I guess when we start out, you mind telling everybody how you got started into flintlock shooting and muzzleloading?
Yeah, so for me, I've thankfully been born and raised into muzzleloading. My parents met at muzzleloading competitions here in Indiana, where I've been born and raised, and I find myself living again, as an adult. But it actually goes back to my grandparents' generation. My one grandfather started shooting. His father heard about a muzzleloading competition on the radio in 1937, and they went, him and his brother and a couple friends with his father, drove a Ford, early 30s automobile down to the range down there at what became the NMLRA range. At the time was in Dillsboro, Indiana. And they enjoyed watching the match so much that my great-grandfather decided that they'd be back next year to and have a gun to go and shoot. So in 1938, my grandfather, his father, and their brother went down to southern Indiana again, and this time they shot, and my grandfather actually won the first youth match, and that kind of sealed our family history, at least on my mother's side. My father's father got into muzzleloading, was kind of interested in it, but then came back from World War II and got really interested in muzzleloading competitions. Him and his brother traveled all over the country, and then my grandfather had his kids, one of them being my father, and then thankfully my parents met at a muzzleloading match, like I said there, and kind of raised me in it. Started shooting muzzleloaders when I was 5. And got behind a 54 caliber bench gun, shooting out to 50 yards there, and kind of just fell in love with it. Been in love with it ever since. So, and now we're kind of helping spread the good word, as I like to say.
Okay, I had some people saying, and it was kind of confusing because they said there's no sound on Ethan's end. I'm trying to figure out which. You guys hear us all? Okay, I think they were talking. Somebody said that you were a little quiet. They couldn't hardly hear you or me. I don't know. We'll figure it all out here.
Some.
There we go.
How's that?
I can hear you better now. Now let's see here. Hopefully they can all hear you.
Sorry, guys.
So I can't figure out because I saw Ethan. They couldn't hear Ethan, and I was like, well, you'll have to be a little bit more specific than that. Okay. Rod's Vintage says that he can hear us just fine. Cool.
Okay,
great.
Yeah,
so you started
just a little bit on the mic there, just in case.
Yeah. Okay. So you say you started at the age of 5.
Yep.
Oh well. You're going to be like my kiddo, then old Jeremiah Johnson. He is the age of 2. And
That's
that
fantastic.
kid, he doesn't want to, like, he likes watching his cartoons and everything, but his favorite thing to watch is, Duelist 54, me, a lot of the other muzzleloading channels. He loves muzzleloaders. And the other night, and he loves books too.
Good.
The other night, I went to go study my French small arms book. It's basically the history of French flintlocks from 1707 to 1737. And I couldn't find it. I was like, well, I got to go put Jeremiah to sleep. And I went in there, and he was already sitting there. Can't talk, but he's sitting there with his book open going, blah, 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 flips the page.
That's wonderful.
That's perfect. I'm pretty excited about having him getting into the muzzle loading world.
I mean, that's what you want. I think that's really important for our generation. Not to go full hog here, but it's really important that we make sure that our kids are interested in this and that we can pass it on. And I think that your son is already into it and already reading the books. I mean, he's not going to be able to let go now. I mean, he's stuck.
Everything, if it is a pipe and he can find a stick, it becomes a muzzle loader.
Perfect.
And I've already found out his favorite movie is Gettysburg.
Okay. He's got good taste.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, let's see here. Read some of these comments here. Yeah, everybody's saying they can hear you, but everybody says they can hear us better now. Let's see. You guys got any questions? This is the guy to ask over there. There we go.
I appreciate you having me on, Ethan. It's really energizing for me that you even considered having me on, and I've been watching your guys' channel for a long time. It's always fun to meet with and connect with people. I mean, even in person is always best. I mean, I'd love it if we were out on your range shooting right now, but we'll have to take those baby steps. This is a great first step.
Oh yeah, and I think we were actually planning on doing it last New Year's, but I think we're planning on going up to Friendship at some point.
Oh, fantastic!
So, to go do the shoot up there. It'll probably be next New Year's shoot, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see how it all turns out.
Yeah.
We were gonna
try that. If you do, and I'll camp out a couple days there, and we can hang out and have some fun.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. Might have to bring we got a few toys that we could bring.
It looks like you just have a couple. You might need to pick up a couple more. I don't know.
We grabbed a few of them. Well, here's a conversation starter. I'll show this to you. This is an original Revolutionary War musket. It's what it was sold to us out of. I can't remember the name of the museum up in Vermont, if memory serves me right. But I actually went and looked through my French small arms book. All the markings have been scrubbed on this gun. This is one of them committee of safety guns. But I've identified the lock 100%. It's a 1728 Saint Etienne lock on this gun. And let's see here. You can kind of tell where the markings were and how it's kind of rounded out down there, but you got the steps and the lock plate here, and you got this kind of hexagon-shaped pan. And the barrel, I was thinking was off a 66, but it's actually off of after measuring it out and reading the book, it's actually off of a Dragoon musket, not a carbine, one of the French Dragoon muskets they had in the 1740s. I can't remember which model exactly, but I do know now that it was definitely used after the Revolutionary War because this thing has been retrofitted with an 1816 Springfield trigger guard. So it's got all sorts of parts on this thing.
Man, that's fantastic.
I just need to find a ramrod for it now. And hopefully, if all goes well tonight, we might have a 1812 Springfield. Hopefully. Well, tell us about some of your projects there. You were telling me earlier about some of the things you were working on.
Yeah, so right now I've got that CVA Hawken I'm putting together for a local family here. I'm kind of getting to my fill of kind of the Hawken builds. I think if I can find a Thompson Center Hawken kit, I'll kind of round out the majority of production Hawkens that are available.
Yeah,
I'm not in a rush to do that, but because Hawken after Hawken is can get a little laborious. It feels like a little bit, but we've got some other things kind of in the pipe. I was joking with Ethan that I kind of have things. I'm trying to budget for things on a kind of a year-by-year basis, and out 5 or 6 years trying to get stuff planned out because different makers and different suppliers take a little time to get that stuff around. I've got a couple buddies that are looking to build some. I think I would call it just more accurate muzzleloaders as far as the historic aspect goes. So there's a couple of colonial era smoothbores and different muskets from the different sides of some friends that are into the military reenacting side of things. And I've got a nice kind of a seconds Chambers English sporting rifle, which is kind of one of their little short rifles, just really cute, really nice. I was joking earlier again that I like a gun that's either really long or really short.
Really short.
And so I'm excited to get into that kit. I don't know if that's going to be I'm hoping that's going to be kind of a next fall, next winter project. We're going to have to see how things go, just as far as the work-life balance goes. We're still working the 9 to 5s and more sometimes, so it's not all muzzleloading all the time, but it's always fun to kind of get that stuff going and get it planned. So a lot of neat things, I think, at least as far as the building projects go, and then I'm kind of playing with some more of the accoutrements and things. So I've got a couple nice horns that are ready to be finished out and do some scrimshaw on. So hopefully bring some folks along for the journey if they're interested in that. But if nothing else, I'm going to have fun doing it.
Oh, yeah. Well, Garrett wants to know if there's a woods runner in your future projects.
There might be. I haven't put in an order for that one. I need kind of an early smooth bore that the woods runner would kind of fit, or the colonial would fit, and I just haven't made up my mind yet. I'd like to get my hands on, just an early smooth bore. So whether that's a Kibler or something else that I find down the road, I know that the Kibler would be a lot of fun. It's just, kind of looking at a couple things that are a little bit weirder, I guess I'd say, in the short term. Sometimes you see something at a show, the kind of show season's lighting up here right now, for at least in Indiana, kind of the area that I'm in here. So I don't really want to put the cart before the horse. I know that if I put an order in for a Kibler, then the next show I go to, there's going to be something I need. So I'm trying to balance that out.
Well, the good news on my end is, Louisiana Gray's asking. He says, let's see. Oh, hey, I can make that happen.
Wow.
He said, I'm curious on that woods runner. Did your brother Ethan ever get one, Garrett? So about that, let's see. Now I got to figure out how to take the thing down. I might not be able to. Oh, there it is. Okay. So
that's nifty. I like that.
Yeah, I actually pre-ordered a woods runner right after you released your video on it. So that was, the date was July 5th. And I ordered a 45 caliber walnut stock gun because I like the walnut stocks on.
It's hard to go wrong with walnut, man.
Yeah, and even though I know that technically, historically, you generally find walnut more on European guns and maple more on American guns, I like walnut.
No, you see plenty of walnut guns here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is actually, according to the original story, this was restocked in the United States, and it's black walnut. But so I pre-ordered that on July 5th, and I had waited my 6 months, and I finally called them, and I think they get their barrels from Green Mountain barrels. Memory serves me right.
Okay.
Evidently, they're having a terrible time trying to get 45 caliber barrels. So, they work. I don't want to interrupt you. Oh no, you're good. They actually worked with me, and I had asked them, I was like, well, can I change the caliber? I was like, that's not too much. And they're like, oh, yeah, absolutely. They're like, matter of fact, I would suggest you go with 50 caliber because we can get that out real quick.
Right.
So I was told that it should be in the mail next week.
Fantastic, man. That's so exciting.
I'm pretty excited about that one.
Yeah.
That'll actually be my first flintlock colonial style rifle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of going back in time there. That's exciting.
Yeah, everything else is smooth bore.
Well, we'll bring you over to the rifled side here.
Yeah.
It's been interesting. The muzzleloading industry has been kind of racked. I mean, if you don't make your own powder and caps have been really difficult to get a hold of. But we're seeing, I think more so in the last year, and I think it's going to be continuing, issues with even just back to raw materials, metal for the barrels. Everybody I talk to is having difficulty sourcing the kinds of steel that you need for a muzzleloading barrel. I mean, it's not just muzzleloading barrels. I mean, my day job, we handle a lot of different kinds of metals, and it gets really difficult sometimes to find stuff, and you're paying a little bit more than you might want to. And even back into the kind of the foundries and the casting side of things. So I'm really hoping that gets straightened out and we start to see that kind of level out. But it's been really kind of wild to watch it affect something like muzzleloading. You don't really, you don't see that on the news, so you don't really ever think about it getting affected by it, but it does. It's been crazy.
And what's bad is even I spent a long time talking with owner of Military Heritage, Robert, the other day. We'd been talking back and forth on the phone. And he was even telling me, he's like, I feel bad because he raised the prices on his guns, I think $50 from whatever they were. He's like, yeah, I kind of feel bad about that, but same thing. He said our suppliers are having a terrible time getting steel, so it's like they raise the price, so I have to raise the price, and yeah, that's kind of how it goes, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
we're just kind of stuck right now. That's it.
Yeah, but I really am glad that we started making homemade black powder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if you aren't in a position, I talk to some guys who are like in apartments and things. They're kind of nervous about making it. I mean, I think it's just kind of I think every generation of the sport really has gone through a time where if you weren't stockpiling or putting some back when it was available, and I'm not saying fill your basement with supplies of really anything except for maybe food and water, depending on where you're at, storms and things. But, I think this is kind of our generations or the people that have gotten into it, rather recently. This is their reminder to make sure that they keep some stuff on hand if they want to keep doing it independently of the supply chain.
Yep. And that's actually what got me into, I'd always been interested in flintlocks. Like growing up, we didn't really have a whole lot of TV. We didn't have any TV. We had a select few VCR tapes.
Yeah.
And on those VCR tapes, you had, let's see here. You had Davy Crockett with Fess Parker.
Yep.
Daniel Boone.
Yep.
We had, let's see, Johnny Tremaine, just stuff like that. Old Walt Disney movies. A lot of flintlocks, which I know now are trapdoors. But, I never gotten into flintlocks because it always seemed like it was such an expensive hobby to get into.
Yeah.
And then that one summer of 2020, when all the other ammunition went up in price and everything, found Military Heritage and started getting Indian reproductions. I was like, hey, you know what? This ain't too bad.
This is a little more attainable,
yeah. And that's when I just started. I basically haven't shot a whole lot of regular self-contained cartridges since, unless they're black powder.
That's kind of it's kind of tertiary to like a build project or something. But a lot of the projects that I have going are kind of research based, and that's something I'm really honing in on. I think I'll be finishing out here in the first half of the year, but I've really been going in as far as I can back in the cost of supplies and and muzzleloaders and everything that's related to them to kind of compare then and now. And to see how expensive is stuff compared to what it was. And it's really been interesting. And, I was born in the early 90s. So I didn't live through the 70s and 80s heydays of everything. But it's been interesting going back through and kind of comparing the economic situations for muzzleloading then and now and how it relates to what we can do to move forward. So that's something I'm excited about talking about and kind of getting that conversation going a little bit.
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm gonna look and see if I can find if anybody's asking any questions in the comment section.
I hope I'm not boring everybody. I don't know if anybody's watching.
No, everybody was pretty. Everybody was pretty excited about this live chat. There's everything black powder.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Yeah.
I was talking about him at a show a couple weekends ago. I got to step up my game, man.
Yeah.
That Annie Oakley shot with the car review mirror, man. I got to get on a level.
Yeah. He says you got to make your own powder and caps nowadays. Well, you don't have to make your own caps if you just shoot flintlocks.
I'm really hoping to find or get a hold of one of those cap makers. I think that's kind of interesting. I'd like to see how that works.
Yeah. Let's see, Snapper, another one of the guys, he's actually in here somewhere. He has a video on it, if I remember right, on how to do it. I'd seen it a long time ago. But let's see here. Rod's Vintage SNS channel says, I've seen caps sold for 50 cents a tin on number 11s on Canadian buy-sell sites. Yeah.
Man.
Garrett, I think he's got quite a few caps stocked up.
You have to. I mean, unless you're like everything black powder out there, I mean, I totally understand the guys making that stuff. I always recommend everybody do it safely, but if you're not in that, I'm very fortunate that I've been able to, buy a few here and there over the years. But a lot of people aren't in that situation.
Yeah. Let's see here. This is from our friend Gray Pilgrim. Thank you for distinguishing that there, Gray Pilgrim. It can get a little confusing. Ethan Woods, have you used any of those flints? So for those of you who don't know, Gray Pilgrim actually sent me a bunch of flints from the Peninsular campaign of the Napoleonic War.
Oh,
and
super.
I know at least one of them appears to be French. It's amber. No, I have not tried them out yet, but that might be a good idea for a video. Just try a few rounds out in a brown bess with the British ones. Let's see. That's not really a whole lot of questions out there tonight.
I'm in the hot seat, guys.
Yeah. I mean, we
the
got
hard
the
seat.
guy here, over there. Let's see here. Okay, I got a question for you. How was it being on the Townsend's on a Townsend's video?
Oh man, that was incredible. Those guys are some of the best, really. I mean, just wholesome, just as you'd expect, you know, just the way that they are in the videos. I mean, I kind of consider that to be a pretty high compliment. The way that they are is the way that they are.
Yeah.
When I pulled up there onto the homestead, I mean, at the time they were working on the smokehouse.
Yeah.
And it was like walking into a Townsend's video, man. It was just cool. I mean, just real nice guys, you know, and we'd been talking some, and it was just kind of you know, the days lined up. I think I had a day off of work for something or other. And it worked out, but it was just super neat to see how they run their production and how much they care about things, even behind the scenes. I mean, just walking around the homestead, it was just cool. You know, it was just, I don't know that it's the kind of thing that they'd ever open up to the public, but it was just kind of neat to just be there, you know?
Yeah. I think I'd seen that John had said, because a lot of people had asked him if they'd open it up to the public, and he was like, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand that it's his private property, but actually Townsend's are kind of,
they could have like a Townsend experience somewhere. You
know,
it'd be like the next Disney World. You know?
Yeah, like for people like us, yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
But I first discovered Townsend's actually whenever I was in Syria on deployment.
Okay.
I went to because we didn't really have internet where we were at, so we would go on patrols into Jordan. We'd stay there for a few hours, and I got internet. Pull out my cell phone, start scrolling through YouTube videos, and there's this guy trying to build a dugout canoe.
Yeah.
And you could just tell that he was getting a little bit frustrated, but he wasn't showing it. Right. Really good at hiding it. I was like, you know what? I kind of like this guy. And then later on, all Townsend stuff here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they're just great. I mean, it's just what they've been able to do in exposing the public to the 18th century is just incredible. And you know, like I said, just wonderful guys. They got even the camera guys, kind of their behind the scenes people, just really down to earth, really wholesome people. You know, everything that you'd expect. and the homestead's really cool. They got a lot of neat stuff on the way, I think, that people will really enjoy.
Yeah. Actually, I've gotten on a few of their live chats, and I stirred a little chaos one time between Ryan and John, and got on there. They had a turkey cook-off.
Okay.
And John lost, and I gave him a super chat. And I remember him reading it off. He goes, "You want me to read this off?" And John goes, "No, but go ahead." He goes, "Here's to the winner of the turkey cooking competition." And oh boy, I opened up a can of worms on that one. So they're going to make you a golden turkey. It was a great time. Great time.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're kind of the ones that inspired me. Another group of people that kind of kickstarted me into flintlocks. And really liking 18th century stuff and reading 18th century books and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, they provide a great, I guess, like an introductory funnel, really. The information, especially recently, the primary source documentation they share is a great jumping off point for anybody interested in this stuff, because you kind of get some names, you kind of get some keywords then that you can take you know, to the internet or to your local library and really start diving in deep. I think that really kind of sets the hook, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it did for me, that's for sure. Well, I guess I'll ask a few more questions of you since I got you on here.
Yeah, man.
What is your favorite flintlock you own?
Oof. That's a tough one, man.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, I really love that Kibler. That Kibler is
Yeah.
just, I don't know if it was just a time in my life that I got a hold of that and really just started to enjoy that, or the process of it. I mean, I was able to put it together in my father's shop, hanging out with him, so there's some great memories there of doing that. And it was really kind of, I have access to kind of my family's, collection in quotes, of stuff that's, a few generations now of muzzleloaders, which is really nice. But I think that Kibler really stands out because it's really mine.
Yep.
It's not a borrowed. It's something I saved up for, something I put together and kind of started the memories with. So I think for me that one's really special. As far as other stuff, there's a few like match flintlock pistols that my father and grandfather made over the years, and those are all really special to me because those are just kind of an era of family history that I've always looked up to. My dad shot and my mother shot a lot of competition too, before they had me, and then when I was very young, and so to me that's always an era I've looked back to. And then I've got that Charleville. I picked that up from a dear friend before he passed, so that one's really close to the heart for me.
Language now.
Yeah,
I like Charlevilles.
I'm more on the civilian side of things, where my interest really lies in understanding and kind of studying the demographics and locations of the civilian smiths. The military history side of things I enjoy, but I'm the first to admit that I'm not a scholar on the military history. I'll kind of know a little bit, enough to get me by, but as far as like between an 1863 or a 65 or that's too many numbers for me. I never did well with that.
My way of doing it is I like the military guns. I just am not, well, I mean, I'm getting better onto it now, but I just like to pretend like I'm in a militia.
Yeah. No,
who just got really good regulation weapons. But speaking of Charlevilles, there's mine. This is one of them Indian-made guns, but this is, I think I mentioned before, this is my favorite gun I own. It's if you couldn't tell, I'm getting ready to work on it. This is the one I was talking about. I got a hammer or a Frizzen from a rifle shop, and I've actually worn through the case hardening on this Frizzen. I fired it so much, but man, I love this gun. This is my favorite.
I think everybody's quest in their life with their muzzleloaders should be to wear out the barrels and wear out the locks in an appropriate manner. Don't go out and just destroy them for the sake of destroying them. But there are pieces that when I am dying, I want to know I replaced the barrel on, or I replaced parts of the lock on because I just shot it so much. That's the end goal, for this stuff.
Yep.
I'm going to make sure it's in good condition to hand off to the next generation, but I'm going to have shot the crap out of it.
Yep. And I've kept a rough track of how many rounds I got through that gun before the Frizzen went out, and I came out at about 2,600 rounds.
That's still good, for a part,
That's a lot of ammo.
Service, that would have been expected to go through quite a bit before being replaced, so that's impressive.
Yeah, and like I said, I got the rifle shop Frizzen, and I'm going to probably do a video on getting that ready to go in there, but it should fit right in there. Looks to me like it will anyways.
That'd be a great video too on updating or changing out parts like that. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I think people maybe get a little nervous about, and that kind of education would be wonderful to share with them.
Oh yeah. Now let's see here. I'm pretty excited about doing that. And like I said, I got the other project, which I was showing the other Ethan there, a little Paget carbine. I'm gonna be doing a lot of work on that one, trying to get it a little more authentic. But I can't wait for this one. This is gonna be fun. I might have to do it from horseback. Oh yeah,
there you go.
I'm gonna try it on horseback and see if I can't get myself bucked off in the process.
I've got a nice original percussion double. I'm hoping to get the stuff for to get a turkey load up. So I'm excited about that, kind of on the civilian space, I guess, and a little bit later than the flintlocks that we're talking about. But I think for everybody, a flint double is kind of the holy grail a lot of the time.
Yep.
So that's something that we're scoping out.
And to get a good double, like that is kind of hard to do because
Yeah.
I love these Indian replicas. I think they're a good base for a lot of good builds.
Yeah.
I think they're good for beginners, but we got the double barrel from them, and it's it's a little rough. So
Right. That's that's a complex process to get.
yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
Even the original stuff or the really good stuff, you know, there are times where you see one that's just it's been through it a little bit too much.
Yeah. And I was actually reading it's called The Flintlock Musket by Stuart Reed. I read through that. I read through that the other night, and you know, we're talking about frisons and wearing through locks and stuff. And he said that a British Brown Bess was expected to have 12 years of service life before it was refit. And that's what he was kind of laughing about, the Brown Besses that ended up going down to Mexico in the 1830s that were built in the 1770s.
Isn't that just
He's
cool?
like, oh yeah, yeah.
I mean,
and that's what,
gosh, come on.
and that's what these little things here, these little Paget's, I found out they actually shipped 15,000 of these to the Mexican army, and these were actually used extensively in the Texas Revolution, in the Mexican-American War, and actually a lot of them were captured in the Mexican-American War and then traded off. So I'm kind of surprised you don't see these more out west.
But well, I mean, that's something for the guys out west that are wanting to get into something kind of flintlock. You know, I think a lot of folks get frustrated because they feel like they're too far west to really be in the flintlock era. But really, I mean, we were pretty far west, not in any massive number or in any government sense. But man, people kept going. You know, they didn't. I mean, Indiana, we always joke, was considered the West. You know, for much of the time, but there were people out in Illinois and farther west, very early, especially in the trade circuits and things.
Yeah, and that's so like I said, we live out here in kind of southwestern Kansas, where I dress like this, and I go out on Main Street because we live in a little town of like 49 people, and I got people going,
that's delightful.
So like, wait a minute, you should be doing cowboy reenacting out here, but I don't know, this is kind of thing I like to do. But you're talking about guns going out west.
Yeah.
This one is one that Garrett's done.
Oh man.
And you got the Sitting Fox.
Yeah.
Northwest trade gun. This is one that definitely made it out west a lot. Yeah.
How do you like that from Sitting Fox? I haven't had a chance to handle one personally, but I've seen a lot of them moving around, and they seem to be pretty well reviewed.
Yeah, this is actually another one of the military heritage guns. It was in the white, just like the rest of these when Garrett first got it. And he has rebuilt this thing and made it gorgeous. And this one, let's see here. You know, people talk about these things not sparking. I don't know how well this one will do. It's got a pretty dull flint, but it's not too bad.
Yeah.
This one, he's taking it out. We've taken it out hunting and whatnot. And it's a pretty good shooter, really. And I like it. I like it quite a bit.
Those Northwest trade guns, those are nice. I'm wanting to get into and try to find a civilian flintlock smoothbore, and the Northwest trade gun is definitely a profile that always catches my eye. That I love that trigger guard and everything on there. It's just kind of trying to decide and what comes up, whether it's going to be a civilian Fowler or one of the trade guns, because it's just it's a neat era of history too when you have that early stuff and the real utilitarian side of things before it gets too or not too ornate, before it gets really ornate and you kind of see things change.
Yeah, and I tell you, the civilian Fowler I like a lot, which I used to have the military heritage version of it before I about got bit by a rattlesnake, and I had a knee-jerk reaction to swing at it like Davy Crockett, and that didn't end up very well. But I had a fusil de chasse, the French early Fowlers, and I would love to do do a build on one of those from, I think Dixie Gunworks has got a parts kit for one, if memory serves me right. Man, I love that. Just that cow's foot dropping that stock. Oh, it is great.
I think the picture behind me that I'm using as a backdrop, because my daughter's just kind of tore up our living room here where the computer's at, is I think it's a Dutch clubfoot Fowler by Ken Cahagan. It's a contemporary build, but it's just a beautiful. I mean, in total, I think it was like 72 or 76 inches long. And
oh wow!
You kind of see that drop.
Yeah, I see the club foot on it.
Man,
Kind of
just
reminds me of a
beautiful piece.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the club foot. I think, well, on the 63 Charlottevilles, they had that big old club foot on that. Wonder if they got inspired by the Dutch design.
Oh, I'm sure. You know all that stuff was moving back and forth a ton.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and
Well, they tried the cow's foot. They did that on their 1728 Saint Antien or however you pronounce that. They did the cow's foot.
Yep.
It wasn't popular. It was not popular, which I found out that the design they have on the 66 and 66 through 74 is you get a good cheek weld on it, but there's something about that design, and I've been reading references to it now about when you fire the gun, you always just get punched right up there in the jaw. Yep, and it just comes up and hits you, and that's why on the 77s they scallop out the stock right there so it can slide along your face.
Okay.
But
that iterative design is just always fun.
Oh yeah.
You know, to see how and why things change over time.
Yeah. Well, let's see here. Stephen Mountain Man here. He's one of our friends here on the channel.
Yeah.
He lives the life. He says, "Don't feel bad, Ethan. I get that look all the time." Yeah, I hear you. But let's see here. So the original, we were going to do like a themed live chat here. We talked about originally. Might as well just get the question out.
Yeah.
This is the man to. Yep, there we go. There's a man to ask about this. So 18th century.
Yep.
You're out on the frontier. Let's say backwoods of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Rifle or smoothbore?
I mean, I've been born and raised on a rifle. You know, everything. Just about everything I've ever shot is a rifle, and you know, I'll you know, full disclosure, not super experienced on the smoothbore stuff.
Yeah.
Myself, I'm continuing to learn about it and continuing to figure it out. It's really hard to argue the usefulness of a smoothbore and its practicality. If you are in an age like many people were, where you have one gun and that's it, you know, and that's what you're using to feed and defend your family, and it's, you know, what you're carrying all the time, that smoothbore, you know, in a thick woods is going to be enough. It's going to be plenty. And you're carrying that thing every day, you're going to have that thing shooting, I imagine, pretty close to what you're able to shoot with a rifle now. I mean, yeah, there are guys that, you know, like like everything black powder out there, shoot the flea off a dog's back, you know. But I think generally
with a mirror.
Yeah, with a mirror, upside down, liquored up. I don't know. That guy can shoot anything. I mean, shoot. I really think that I think it's understandable to see the prevalence of smoothbores that we see. There were rifles, absolutely, and there's still quite a few rifles, and we know, you know, all the legendary tales of the American long rifle and its usefulness. But the practicality of a smoothbore, and I think the training and education that would have gone along with that, as a you know, whatever era you're in that era, whatever kind of person you are in that era, you're going to know how that thing shoots, and you're going to know your limitations with that. And you know, being able to take foul or game with it, you know, another great advantage. You know, you could you can put anything in there that you need to, and take down what you need to for the time.
Oh yeah. And then you go to the having to defend your family's point of view, especially when you're talking about like Pennsylvania. I've never been to Pennsylvania. Furthest east I've been to New Hampshire. I went to Portsmouth one time whenever it was right before I deployed last time. But I also think about, you know, the woods of Georgia, spent a lot of time down there.
Yep.
And then pine forests. I think that just kind of depending on where you're at, you think about it, you got access to longer ranges. A rifle is definitely going to be the way to go. And the hard thing, or the nice thing about a rifle is that I found, say you got a squirrel in a tree, you're not really wanting to tear him up. I mean, yeah, you can use birdshot, but it's really nice to take a headshot with a rifle if you're that good.
And it feels real good when you're able to do that. You know, I mean, I don't hunt a lot. You know, I hunt a lot of squirrels, and to me, that's about as fun as it gets.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure everything black powder takes a squirrel every time he points one, or spooks one up. But for us common folk, when you do get a squirrel, it feels real good.
Oh yeah. That's what old Caleb there. He made a legendary. My little brother Caleb. He made a legendary shot one time with a Hawken as a little.
Okay.
Well, he was
there was nothing left of the squirrel then, was there?
actually it was a headshot.
Okay.
We were sitting outside and we're shooting cabin balls and stuff, and he's sitting out there at the bench, and I mean he's just a teenager. He's got this Hawken, I believe, I think it was a Thompson Center.
Yep.
And he's sitting out there, and he goes, "Hey guys, you see that squirrel out there in that tree, about 150 yards away, and it's on my mom and dad's property? There's a squirrel just jumping across these trees." I'm like, "Yeah." He sits there. He even does the Alvin York thing just as a kid, just licks that front sight, puts her up there, boom. See the squirrel come toppling out of the tree. And I think the most shocked person out of all of us there was Caleb himself. Whatever their perfect headshot. I was like, man, you know what? That rifle life looks kind of nice.
It does have its advantages.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you, that's another one of my kind of research points, because I have a lot of folks asking me, theoretically, as a lot of people put it, the flintlock smoothbore is the ultimate survivalist tool, because you can make your own powder. You can always find flints or chert, depending on where you're at. You find a creek. Generally, hopefully you can find something, depending on how bad you need it.
Arrowhead,
or you can have a supply of it. But you can shoot a lot, and you can feed yourself with that one gun. And I think its prevalence in history, really backs up that claim, and that thing that we look at now in kind of a modern preparedness sense of that flintlock smoothbore being super useful, because it's not going to be picky. You can get a patched round ball. You can get an accurate load set up for that, and reserve those supplies for those situations where you need that 100-yard shot if you absolutely need it. But for everything else, it's going to eat what you feed it. It's not going to matter what kind of powder you've got, really. If you've got powder, it's going to burn, it's going to shoot, and you're going to be fine.
Oh yeah. Well, but then I was thinking about another thing. Is there was definitely a how shall I put this, a demand for rifles.
Oh yeah,
because those things are, I think it was in a Townsend's video that I watched. They were talking about, what was it? It took 2 months' wages to buy a rifle, and people still did it. Yeah, like it was not cheap. But
no, it was like going from a horse to a car for a lot of people. I mean, it was
it
was that advanced for them, and you can kind of look at it a couple ways there. I mean, you're taking that technological leap in accuracy, but you're also making that accuracy a lot easier for people because of that rifling. You no longer necessarily. I mean, you still should, even today. We should still practice and maintain our proficiency with arms, but that rifle, once you get that load combo set up for it, you have that ability to be accurate. It's the kind of thing that if the rifle itself and the components are accurate, you can hand that off to somebody that can line those sights up, and it's going to be an accurate shot. And it's a huge leap for people. If you're away, say you're out on the farm or something, and your wife is back at the cabin, that she's going to be able to touch that rifle off at what she's pointing it at, and it's going to go there.
And that's another thing with rifles. Even I noticed, because I got started out with flintlocks on the smooth bores, and not just any smooth bores, the Brown Bess. Which that thing, the legendary Brown. Big Bertha, especially when it's a long land pattern and it's as tall as I am. That thing is basically a miniature cannon. And I noticed whenever I went over to go shoot something like Garrett's little Southern Mountain rifle here. This is Garrett's Kibler. Yeah,
beautiful. Is that cherry, right? Cherry?
Yes, this is cherry wood, and he's done it. It's a beautiful rifle.
Oh yeah.
But when you go to shoot something like this, and we did a little bit of experimentation with our mother, we gave her this to go shoot, and she wanted to shoot muzzleloaders. I think she was shooting like a 30 grain charge, and she's just sitting there and hitting what she's aiming at, and no recoil, no flinch, no nothing. Then we gave her a matchlock. That was you could tell that she did better with something like that, and I think that's something that needs to be brought into that conversation. Is it'll be easier to teach somebody how to load a smoothbore, but it takes a lot more training to get over that flinch factor with a giant smoothbore musket.
Yeah. And in new shooters, you get a lot of, or you can get a lot of frustration with, setting up the accuracy. I mean, accuracy is going to be different with that smoothbore.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get it figured out, you're gonna do great. I mean, I know a lot of guys that can outshoot me with their smoothbore, out to 100 yards, and I'm still trying with my rifle,
Yeah.
because they've got that set up, and they know, and they also, like, 20, 30 years my senior, they're that much more experience on me, which really adds up. No matter what you've got, getting out there and shooting, it's going to be the best thing, to get it figured out.
Yeah. And another thing is, you start getting into, I was talking about defending the homestead.
Mm-hmm.
Then you start getting into the military aspect of things, which, here in America, we got a lot of militia, which basically are just farmers coming off of their farm and enlisting or joining their local militia, which you actually had to be a part of anyways.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't necessarily
you didn't join it.
Rather than you being,
you were there.
You were expected to be there.
I like the story of the German gunsmith who decided that he really didn't need to be in the militia. And so I think they were going to fine him or something. And he said, listen, I make your guns. I fix your guns. If I get shot, there's nobody to fix your guns. I'll pay the fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get a lot of guys showing up with their whatever they got on the farm, whether it be a Fowler or a rifle. And while I'm a firm believer that the rifle in the American Revolutionary War is a lot of times overplayed, a lot of people kind of are like, that's the gun that won the Revolutionary War.
Its
there's a lot more.
Was limited.
Its prevalence was limited, but it was noticeable, and that's the thing. I was talking with Ethan over there before the show started about one of my future projects. I'm planning on doing a pattern 1776 build, which is the rifle that the British government actually started noticing American riflemen, and they're like, okay, that's actually, they got a point there.
Right.
So they started making these 1776 rifles, and that actually sparked into the 1776 becomes the Baker becomes the Brunswick, and it just starts a whole family of British rifles.
Yeah, it just ignites a whole series of innovation.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and especially whenever you start reading about Morgan's rifles.
Yeah. I mean, American legends. I mean, it's just, everybody loves reading that stuff. And I think the importance of the rifle is still felt today. I mean, yeah, everybody has, a shotgun or a few shotguns or whatever, but really the prevalence that everybody goes to is something that's rifled, because it's just so capable.
Yeah.
So capable.
So, yeah, you got to think there's something there. It's not 100%. It's not as prevalent, I think, as people make it out to be sometimes, but it's more than just a footnote, because it started a whole thing.
Yep.
Let's see here. Let's see.
I hope we're not boring them.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we're doing all right. Yeah.
I'm just about done with my coffee here, so we'll have to.
Gonna have to take a break.
No, I packed up, man. I got thermos after thermos here to keep us going.
There you go.
So.
I got an automatic filler here. His name's Caleb. He keeps on filling my horn. So
good on Caleb. Thank you, Caleb.
Oh yeah, there's an offering for a kit of fusil de chasse that is rifled. Might have been a Reed Davis kit, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. Now that's interesting. I'd be curious to see what caliber that is.
I think Log Cabin has. I think I saw last year they picked up somebody's line of fusees. So I'm terrible with pronouncing. Even English, I have trouble pronouncing it.
Yeah.
So please forgive me on anything French, because it's just not going to happen. But I saw at the CLA show last year, they had quite a few different varieties there. So that might be, what you're referring to there, but I'd have to look into it a little bit more.
Yeah. I need to get another one, and I want to do a decent one. Let's see here.
Yeah.
Gray
There's a lot of
Pilgrim
good
says,
options out there.
yeah. Gray Pilgrim says, Caleb, we need to see you more on that camera. You might want to tune in tomorrow, Gray Pilgrim. Well, not tomorrow. Here before too long, you might see Caleb with a Zawab rifle.
Hey, classic.
Oh yeah. Caleb was well. You'll have to watch the video to see the results of that one.
I want to see it. That's another
here.
interesting kind of limited application, but still became kind of a legendary piece of the Zouave.
Oh yeah.
Some interesting history there.
Yep. Well, let's see here. Got any more questions, guys? We got the guy to answer the questions if you got any.
We got the head muzzleloading goober over here.
Oh yeah.
I keep joking I'm going to start a muzzleloading club and just call it the muzzleloading goobers.
There you go. I join that club.
That's just a goober out on the range because.
Well, me and Caleb, we could definitely join that club then. We get a little crazy.
My wife has drawn up a cute little possum with a muzzleloader and like a little cap and things. So kind of inspired by the Red Green show, if anybody remembers that.
Oh, Caleb.
Okay. See, I knew. It's more than just the name, guys. We're on the same wavelength here.
You need to go watch. You get a chance. Look up. We got a video called. I think it's called Point of View. You're on the range with Ethan, Caleb, and a 62 caliber pistol.
Okay.
There's a red green reference and there.
Perfect.
All sorts of stuff because I think Caleb told me he's like, you're gonna go walk up to that bottle you can't hit with this pistol. You'll execute it at point blank range, and that way you'll spray water all over the pistol and start the cleaning process. And just so you know, if the girls can't find you handsome, they at least got to find you handy.
That's good.
That was a good day. That was a good day. Let's see here.
I think I don't know if I can get it to show up. We'll see. This year, at least on a lot of the range stuff, is going to be kind of it's just glitching out there, isn't it?
Oh, wow.
This is a Pedersoli percussion Lepage pistol. So I've been kind of joking that this year is kind of the year of the pistol for me. I've got, I think, I've got quite a few eras of muzzleloading pistols ready to go here for the range this year. So I'm excited to get some of this stuff out. Last year was a lot on the long arms and just kind of getting the range set up and getting that figured out. But I'm thinking this is kind of be the year of the pistol a little bit. Get out some of the fun stuff, some of the flintlock and percussion stuff. But and I got a couple of revolvers, different eras of revolvers. That's something I again don't know a lot about, but it's going to be fun. Kind of getting educated. That's part of the fun about getting stuff and putting it out online is you kind of learn a lot. You learn about how much you don't know.
Oh yeah. Real quick, I do that quite often. There's actually a flintlock pistol we've got that's an original.
Okay.
And it's the oldest. I almost guarantee you that's the oldest gun here in the county that we have. It is an original made in 1717 Queen Anne's. Yeah, it's one of them ones that you're like, wow, that's a nice one. Let's see. We're getting a lot of conversation about Swiss caviar resupply of it coming. So I don't know about Swiss caviar there, Mountain Man. And then Soylent Green says, is there really an advantage to Swiss? We got a whole side conversation going on over here about caviar. I think I missed the intro to it.
I'm not high class enough to even know anything about caviar. I eat chicken eggs, and that's about it.
I'm more of a sardine guy. That's about as fancy as we get.
Yep.
Let's see here. Oh, here's
mess
a
of
question.
bluegill. I can do that. I don't know about caviar.
Oh, yeah. Swiss powder, Garrett says, okay.
Oh, Swiss powder. That makes a little more sense. Okay.
Swiss caviar. Okay. Now I get it.
Now I'm getting the association. Okay.
All right,
you gotta spell it out for me, guys. I'm a little slow.
Swiss caviar, as in Swiss powders, resupply of it coming. Have you heard anything? It
should be close, if it's not here already. I mean, back then in January, they were saying that they had stuff incoming quite a bit. So I just keep an eye on the different shops and things that are online and your local shops if you have it locally. I imagine they will be really making everybody aware of when that comes in. I know the folks down in Texas that import it. It's imported under Shoots and Energetics here in the United States. They distribute both. I know that over the past year, it's been slow to get into the country and cleared through customs. At least one time last year, it actually came through a port in Canada, which really slowed it getting to and out to distributors. But once it got into the United States, I think it was only 2 or 3 days, and it was to every distributor. So it's the kind of thing I'm keeping an eye on. I know people at the different companies and at Shoots and Energetics down there in Texas, but I try not to badger them too much because I know they get a lot of calls and things. So I try to, kind of respect that a little bit. But I'd like to think that we'd see it at least by April at the latest, because you're going to start seeing the big national events kick up here in late spring and early summer. So I know it will be here, by June to meet those deadlines. But I would expect to see it. If it's not going to be there soon, it should be there early April at the very latest, I'd expect. And that's just me spitballing, just based on some of the trends of last year. So I'm willing to eat my hat on that if it doesn't come in, for sure.
I'll answer this one for you, Steve, and I'm sure
okay.
Ethan over here, he can answer this one too.
Yeah, I'm happy to contribute to that.
I still don't know if it's any good. Reason I want to test it. Well, I'll tell you this. Swiss is good. It's real good. Yeah. So with our homemade powder, like I load up for the Charleville, and it's very close to 18th century powder.
Mm-hmm.
I load to the original specs for the French loading, which is actually about 156 grains.
Yeah.
I put 85 grains of Swiss in that gun, and it kicks me harder than that 150 grains of the 18th century powder. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, I'd have to say the same. I mean, I shoot everything indiscriminately, as far as powder goes. I'm very fortunate to have distributors close and access to just about every powder. And, I mean, if you go to any of the major competitions where the guys are really shooting and a lot of times shooting for money and shooting for medal and things, most of your top shooters across the country are going to be shooting Swiss in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes, muzzleloading, that's going to be the case for a lot of folks. And in black powder cartridge, Swiss is pretty dominant when it comes to the guys shooting, across the country competitions there. In the big matches, it's just kind of, it's the most expensive powder, I think, when you're looking at the mass-produced and distributed powders. But there's a lot of records and a lot of shooters that have set records using it. That's not to say that you can't do it with Schutzen or with GoX, but predominantly the top shooters are going to tell you got to be shooting Swiss.
And we actually, when we do our proofing, because Swiss is so much hotter, it seems like. I mean, I don't know if it's that much hotter, but it feels like when you shoot, I'm going to have to go proof this gun.
Right.
When I go to do that, because they don't drill the touch holes in these, because it's a non-firing replica because of the gun laws in India.
Right.
But when I drill the touch hole for this gun, we're going to proof it, and we'll most likely be using Swiss just because if it's going to run with a really heavy charge of Swiss, it'll run with anything we can make.
And I think everybody's testing that you see online, Swiss is pretty unanimously the hottest or the fastest.
Yeah.
When it's set up on a chronograph or anything. I enjoy using it, especially when I'm in some of the bullet testing when it comes to black powder stuff, because I know that it's not everybody's going to be hunting with Swiss. I mean, for a lot of guys, it's a little overkill, but that heat and that speed is kind of as much as you're going to get out of black powder, at least in the produced stuff in a can that's distributed.
Yeah, and I've noticed even in smooth bores, you wouldn't think that your powder quality would have a whole lot to do with your accuracy. It does.
It does, yeah. You get into the muzzleloading shotgun competitions and things. A lot of for just kind of your fun stuff, they'll shoot just about whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But if you're getting down to some records and some titles, you'll see people shooting the good stuff because they want to make sure they're hitting those birds.
Because I did an accuracy test with my Charleville, my old Char is what I call her, and it was basically for all the people who are like, you can't hit anything past 20 yards with a smoothbore musket.
Right.
And for that, I used, which I don't recommend, I used 150 grains of Swiss because that's what Captain Ball had used because he used the original loading but with Swiss powder. And people were talking about the gun was going to blow up. I had to mention later, but I actually proofed that gun with Swiss. And so I was like, yeah, 150 grains of this gun is nothing. And at 150 meters from a rest, I had a slightly smaller than silhouette target. I had, the head on it is about that big.
Right.
I fired a 3-shot group and I had 2 rounds land about 1.5 inches away from each other. So I was like, yeah, that's pretty good stuff.
I've had it explained to me that when it comes to a smoothbore, once you get your load figured out, it's that column of energy and that explosion that's coming through that keeps that ball or that patch pretty centered in that bore. It kind of acts as disappearing rifling in a way is how I've had it explained to me. Once you get that kind of figured out, you get your patch and your powder and your ball combo figured out. That creates a column of that propulsion that's keeping that pretty well centered.
So, yeah, because I think Duelis was the first guy I ever heard talk about that.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those guys, yep.
And what I actually had done is I'd found that the French, especially in the 1740s to the 1780s, put a pretty big emphasis on individual marksmanship for their guys, which is kind of contrary to what everybody says. They're just trained to fire in a line. They actually did care about making hits. Matter of fact, one of their drills was they'd get a guy who would go and post up behind a tree. He'd have 2 guys behind him, and they'd be the best shot, would fire, hand the musket back, reload, get another one, and they would just have that best shot taking shots. It's one of their skirmishing tactics.
Okay.
But there was a reference that I had read where they talked about taking their standard paper cartridge and putting it in upside down because they got better results.
Right.
And that was what I did for that test, and it worked. It worked well. It worked beautifully. Yeah. And I think that has to do with what you're talking about because it's almost like that naked ball sitting on that powder with a wad over the top.
Yeah. I mean, so much of this stuff has been figured out. It's muzzleloaders were used for hundreds of years, and they were able to figure that stuff out a lot. And it's just kind of a matter of rediscovering it or getting back out and testing it and trying it, which is part of what makes all this so much fun. You can find those little documents and things that kind of give you an idea of something to go and try, and it's like, oh man,
that does work.
That does work. That's interesting. I'm going to add this to the little notebook and see where it goes.
Yeah. So, by the way, this is that pistol I was talking about. This is the
beautiful.
Old Queen Anne's pistol, and
yep,
it does still
nice.
Take your barrel off. So yeah, this is a pretty nice one for being like almost 300 years old.
Yeah,
it might be 300 years old. 1717.
You see so many of those pistols are in much better condition than some of the long arms. I mean, they weren't nearly as common as the long arms, and I kind of think that may have led to part of why they were preserved so well because they were kind of a higher end item.
And especially, I mean, look at something like this, like the grotesque mask.
Yep.
That
classic.
That's taken a little bit of time, I guarantee you. And I mean, this is all done in silver, and it's kind of sad because the old marking, the old one on the side here is broken in half. But I mean, there's some really nice engraving on this gun and everything. You can tell this was definitely a high end pistol.
Yep.
But yeah, it's pretty nice old girl. But let's see here. Mike Bellevue. Speaking of Mike Bellevue.
Hey, yeah.
Have you heard about the issue he's having?
Yes. Absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that he kind of comes back with a little bit of how we can help because that's just.
Yeah.
I keep a pretty cool head, but that kind of stuff just makes my blood boil there. He's fighting his like local zoning commission. They've decided that he can't shoot on a property he owns if he doesn't have a house on it.
and the house has to have plumbing and electricity.
Right, which is, yeah, you can't just put like one of those shed homes or a tiny home there. It has to be fully equipped. I mean, it's just absurd. It's the kind of stuff you keep seeing in states like Pennsylvania that just is really frustrating, to see that change. I mean, thankfully Indiana's, is Indiana, I guess.
Yeah.
And, it works pretty well into folks like ours' favor. But, man, it seems like he continues to just catch it. And I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
He's such a nice guy, so helpful to anybody that asks a lot of questions and things, and such a great resource. It's just like he's always at odds with things. Or things are at odds with him, really. It's not anything that he's done. It's just...
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, it gets me frustrated. Don't get me started on that.
Oh, yeah. And I think Steven, old Mountain Man, me and him were both on the live chat at the same time on another channel over on the wild side. And he was talking, basically, he's a guy who's living off the grid, and he does more of the Western style of stuff. But he's just kind of living his life on his own little property there. And he was talking about that he had I think they talked about, he lives up in either Washington or Oregon.
Okay.
I think it's Washington. And he started to build a cabin, and the local authorities there made him stop because it didn't have everything that it was supposed to have. And yeah, that sort of stuff kind of irks me a little bit. Makes me glad I'm from Kansas.
Right, yeah.
Out in the middle of nowhere in Kansas.
Yeah, in the middle of, if you're not in the middle of nowhere, your 5-year plan should include getting to the middle of nowhere.
To the middle of nowhere. Yep. Oh, let's see here.
It's much better in the middle of nowhere.
Yep. You can, and that's I wish I was a little further out in the middle of nowhere, because I miss the days of being a kid where I could walk right out the back door and shoot whatever I wanted. Now I live in a very small town. They kind of frown on that.
Right.
Let's see here. See if I can find any more questions.
Yeah, my internet can't really support it if I opened up another tab.
Oh, yeah.
To see what people are saying. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of delegating that to you tonight. I appreciate you doing it, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's no easy task.
Well, I got a lot of comments here, and I'm just trying to find. Let's see. Snapper's commented here.
Snapper.
Old Snapper. Or his neighbors are complaining a lot since they legally can't tell him to stop doing. They're trying to find a way to make it extremely hard for him. Are you talking about Duelist there, Snapper, I assume?
Yeah, I think Duelist, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not even... what really gets me is it's like black powder stuff. It's not even... I mean, he could go out there with some modern stuff and just crack. I mean, just so his neighbor's ears would hurt.
Yeah.
But it's black powder stuff. I mean, it's not even loud, guys. If you're a neighbor and you hear some black powder stuff, it's like, is that a tractor backfiring, or is that?
Yeah.
I mean,
and then you don't hear another one for another 5 minutes or so. It's not like it's rapid fire.
It's kind of a phantom poof. If there's any distance between you. All right,
oh yeah.
I don't know if it's the kind of thing where everybody shows up in Pennsylvania, or what, but I'm hoping he does something to help out, at least with some of the legal fees, so that people can help out in their capacity, because I just hate to see that happen to him.
I mean, he's really he's contributed so much to the black powder community. Really has.
Yeah.
Like I said, I would have not have known about that, loading the ball down on the powder, without a wad in between ball and powder, or patch, making it more accurate for smooth bar. I wouldn't have known about that if it wasn't for Duelist.
Some of that stuff you just wouldn't think to try.
Yeah. But I kind of joke about one of my memories is it was when I first got my Charlottesville. We worked down here on a farm/ranch.
Yeah.
And it was freezing cold. It had just big ice storm had rolled through. It was like 20 below zero, and I'm out here on a New Holland tractor hauling bales out to these bulls. And I grabbed 2 bales with my grapple up front. I'm sitting there, got my earbud in, I'm listening to Duelist. And that was the time when he was trying to load he accidentally grabbed the wrong musket ball. And he was trying to load a 69 caliber ball down a 69 caliber bore. Yep. And I'm sitting there, and about that time he's doing that, the tractor got a little heavy on one side and started going over.
Tipping.
Yep, dropped the bales on the ground. And I called my brother. I'm like, hey, Garrett, well, I will always remember this segment on Duelist Video where he tried to load a 69 caliber ball down a 69 caliber bore because I about died listening to that story. But yeah, man, I love Duelist. I hope he gets that all figured out.
Yeah, what a mess.
But let's see here. Oh, Turkey Creek's in. Hey, Turkey Creek.
Welcome, Turkey Creek.
Yep. Step out the back door and shoot
That's the
anything
dream,
I want.
man.
I know you do. He don't live too far away from us, so I know he's living a dream out there. Let's see. Is it hard? Oh, this is a conversation that you're going to be probably seeing here on the 11 Bang Bang channel.
Yep.
And I'm sure Ethan over here, you want to answer that? Talking about, is it a hard task? I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yeah, I can see it there. Yeah. I
Okay.
think that's a really great feature too. That's really super cool.
Yeah.
I think with Pedersoli, I don't think you'd have too much trouble.
Yeah.
I think I look at things really simply, and even when it comes to making things, so kind of getting a simple understanding of what hardening and tempering is. I think generally the magnet test works pretty well. If it's something that attracts a magnet, you heat it up until it drops the magnet, and then you're pretty well hardened. Is kind of the simple way to do it. If you have a really limited shop, you're just in your garage with a propane torch or something. That's a way to get it done without any of the furnaces or temperature gauges or anything. That's how I would go about it if I needed to reharden a frizzen and it still had some life in it, or I thought I did. You can always Pedersoli. There's enough of them out there that you should be able to find an aftermarket frizzen too. That might just be a good thing to pick up, so that you have a backup spare kind of thing. But I think that's the kind of thing you can do, on a weekend or something in an afternoon and crack out and be back on the range. What do you think though? Like I said, I'm really open to learning more and eating my hat on something if I'm spouting the wrong thing.
Oh no, you're good. I'm sitting here because the reason I say you're probably going to hear about that is because old Shar here. I mentioned, man, I've worn through this thing, shot it so much. So I've got two things I'm going to try. One of them is actually I'm going to be doing this on several frizzens because that long land pattern brown bess is about in the same boat. I'm going to try some True Spark that I got from Track of the Wolf.
Yep.
Basically, like you're saying, I'm going to heat her up until she's non-magnetic. Then we're going to dip it into the True Spark, pull it out, heat it up until that True Spark just absorbs into that steel, and then, do all the treating. But there's another technique I discovered today, and it's actually an old, 18th century style technique, evidently. You take a tin can, take your frizzen, wrap it in leather, rawhide, some organic material like that. And I was watching this guy doing it. It seemed to work pretty good. Take the can, crimp it, get it all closed up, get it bent shut where it's fairly sealed, and then throw it in a blazing fire, like a wood stove or something, until that can just reaches a cherry red hot color. After, I think he said he did it for about an hour or something. Pull it out, drop it into your cold water, he actually said, because you got to cool off through the can and everything else. You want something that cools fast. And he pulled it out, and man, it just worked. So I think I'm going to try that too with another frizzen.
Okay, they put the frizzen in the can that they crimped up.
Yep.
Okay,
just like a case hardening technique, but instead of using charcoal, they wrapped it in rawhide, just a big bunch of rawhide. And it worked pretty good for him. So yeah, I'm going to try two of those techniques because I got a rifle shop. I'm going to try to reharden this frizzen and see if it works. But I also got a rifle shop hammer for this gun or frizzen, whatever you want to call it. And I got to harden it too because it's a casting. So there's Garrett.
Hi,
Garrett.
How does it feel to be known as the Ian McCollum of the black powder world?
I can't claim that. No. You're gonna make me blush now. Come on. You don't want to discredit Ian that much too. Come on. Gun Jesus hears everything. I think too, to jump back to your question here, Chris, the lock geometry at times on some of the imported guns, it might be a geometry issue over over the frizzen. So if you end up sharpening, or not sharpening, sorry, hardening your frizzen and it's still not working, you might set up your phone or something and try to record your lock falling and see how it's hitting. There's a bunch of, lock diagnosing is its own thing. I don't claim to know a whole lot about it, but there are various symptoms that can cause a lock, especially on, not to discredit them or speak ill of them at all, but on some of the cheaper locks that are out there, you can have issues with that geometry not lining up just because of variances in production. So it might be the kind of thing that you need to adjust your flint, bevel up or bevel down is the first thing to do. Make sure that your flint is really tight in those jaws, which you may have already done. I don't mean to repeat stuff that you might already know, but even down to heating up and adjusting the cock of your frizzen, or the cock of your lock. Sorry, it's getting late for me. Adjusting that a little bit up or down can help a lot on where that's hitting the frizzen, and even down to like your frizzen spring being too tough or too weak. There are times where that flint falling and hitting that can, if your spring is too strong, the fall can't push it back hard enough to get a spark going, or it can be too weak, and instead of really launching open like it should and letting that spark drop, those frizzens sometimes will come forward and then come back, and your flint and your frizzen will strike multiple times on the way down, never getting a good hit. So if you have a modern smartphone, even a 10-year-old smartphone generally will have a slow motion video function on it, and setting that up, just even with the lock out of the gun and recording that in slow motion and really watching how that lock works, you might get some more insight of what's causing your issue if rehardening the frizzen doesn't get what you need.
Yeah, and you were talking about on the cheaper locks, like this Paget. Like I said, I got a lot of work to do on this gun, but I'm going to make her work really good. You can see right now that is the cock being down. You can see it's almost straight up and down as it is right now.
Yeah.
So, and full cock is clear back there.
Is way back there. Wow.
So, I've got some work to do with this gun, but I'm going to make it work. And another thing I've noticed, talking about eating rocks, basically, some of these guns, and this one is this is a pretty good example. First of all, this frizzen's getting replaced because it's wrong for this gun. It's too flat. It needs to be rounded out. But the camera's not going to pick it up too well. But you can see where that frizzen or the hammer engages the feather spring right there.
Yeah.
And you can see how it's at a forward angle. That forward angle is too far, and it just is enough that it causes a lot of resistance.
Yep.
Whenever this first goes to open up, to get it to flip open. And I think that's a lot of causes of rocks getting eaten with some of these cheaper guns.
There's a guy by the name of Larry Pletcher, and I think Steve Chapman helped him out with it. There are a couple Indiana guys, but in the late 90s and the early 2000s, they got access to like a super high-speed camera at like a Toyota manufacturing facility. Is the story that I've heard. Take that with what you will, but I'm not sure as far as how they got that. I guess I'll say I don't want to put out whatever, but they produced a series of super high-speed film, and I think you can find it online. I think blackpowdermag.com, Black Powder Magazine is what it was published under. They did a series of super high-speed flintlock videos that show you how those locks function and how different powders function in the pans of your flintlocks, and kind of debunked a lot of the theories about different granulations of powder in the pan. They really came out with a lot of evidence that said you don't necessarily need 4F powder, which many of us know, but really they came out with some really right in front of you, hitting you over the head with a baseball bat, that the thicker or the larger granulations of powder in a pan can actually be better depending on the lock that you're using. And that was kind of one of the tests that those videos put forth and studied. But the other thing was just how these locks function in like hundredths or thousandths of a second. Yep. It's really fascinating because those locks, and they tested a variety of locks, But a lot of times we think it's a really simple procedure, but it's oftentimes really complex, and it's really interesting to see how these locks perform with that super high speed. So I encourage anybody that's interested in that kind of thing to seek out some of that film. Like I said, Larry Pletcher, I think, was kind of the head of that project in Black Powder Magazine is where you should be able to find it. Really interesting stuff.
Yep. And that's another thing, I've noticed that it really does help with the whole, people talk about flint being pointed down towards the touch hole.
Yeah.
But
geometry
I think
is crucial.
And what's funny is, though, on this old 1728 St. Etienne lock, it doesn't quite do that.
Right.
But I've noticed that
works.
I did the slow motion thing with my phone.
Good.
And what I found with this gun is the sparks, whenever you're striking this, actually kind of come up into here, and they bounce off of the hammer up here and then into the pan.
Yep.
So it works really good. But yeah, that's just kind of how this gun rolls, I guess. Is how they designed them back in the day.
Yeah.
But I think we'll roll for about another 9 minutes, because I know it's getting late where you're from.
Oh, I'm doing fine, man. Don't let me rain on the parade. Whatever you're feeling. I'm enjoying this a lot. This has been a lot of fun.
I just gotta say, it is a really big honor to have you on here.
Oh, don't, please, no, man. This is. I couldn't. I was just tickled that you asked me. So please, we're all just here having fun and having a good time. So please, saying words like honor, you're gonna make me blush. So cut it out.
Well, it looks like I'm blushing, but that's just because I'm sunburnt.
Well, hey, I'm glad you're getting some sun, man. Here in Indiana, we haven't seen the sun for weeks. It's a killer.
Well, here in Kansas, we're getting the sun and the wind to go with it. So let's see here. You guys got any more questions? Like I said, this is the guy to ask. So
if I don't know, I probably know somebody who does, and I'm happy to point you their way.
Let's see here. Chris Klein says, thanks. I should probably take that comment down. I just got to remember where I found it at.
That was a really good question, Chris, and I hope you can get it figured out. It can feel like a complex and intimidating process, but you'll have a greater understanding of your muzzleloader specifically when you kind of go through that a little bit. And I think it's good for everybody to go through that at least once to kind of get an understanding of it.
Yep, and I'm about to go through it for the first time. So we'll see.
There,
I'm asking the same question myself. So we'll find out. Let's see. Wayne Culbertson, let's see here. Bought a Queen Anne pistol from Historical Twist. The barrel and the breech plug are milled together. I will have to drill it to pass the touch hole. It's an Indian make. Okay, yeah. A lot of those, even Pedersoli, I think theirs are all one piece. They're Queen Anne's.
I think it's a really strong manufacturing process.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they're going for, is that durability.
Yeah. And what I think is funny about this gun is actually here on the end of the barrel, it's got a bell, almost kind of like a blunderbuss.
Yeah, I love that.
But the camera probably ain't going to pick it up. They have taken and put a notch for a front sight on this. There it is, on this bell.
Yeah, I can see it there, yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of interesting little thing.
Is that a smooth barrel, or is it rifled?
Yes, it is a smooth bore. A smooth bore 60 caliber.
Okay.
So...
just a little gambling gun, a little cutie.
Yeah. And what's just your concealed carry 60 caliber.
Yeah.
But you actually put the ball down. It's got cut out for the ball and the small powder charge there.
Yep.
And the barrel actually swages down. It has almost like a chamber.
Right.
So you get a very good tight fit going out that barrel. Let's see. Guns and Water says, I'm waiting for my Woods Runner. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, mine should be coming here pretty soon. Like we were talking about, I don't know. Do what?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. I'll wait till you're done.
I was going to say, I think they're kind of eating through that backlog quite a bit. I think they're kind of at the 6-month mark, and I expect them to really get down to a couple months pretty quickly, the way they talk about shipping stuff out. So it's an exciting time if you pre-ordered a Woods Runner. I think everybody's just kind of waiting for their number to come up.
Yep. And like I think I was talking about earlier on the show, mine had been quite a wait, but that is because they are having a hard time getting 45 caliber barrels. And another guy I was talking to on Facebook, and I think it was on the I Love Muzzleloading Facebook page, was talking about he was having a hard time getting extra fancy maple.
Yeah.
So I think that was a thing too. All right, let's see here.
Yeah, sourcing a lot of that stuff is, I mean, sourcing that good stock wood anyway for muzzleloaders can be
Hard.
difficult. You know,
Yep.
a lot of times even in modern furniture making, they see that curl and they consider that to be a defect, depending on where you're at and where you're getting your material from. So it can be a little difficult sometimes.
Yep. Oh, we got Appalachian Man Cave
Man, that's a
from
good
Nova
name.
Scotia.
Okay.
Nova Scotia.
I got a question if you got time. Ask him if he thinks Kibler is going to kill off the Pedersoli flintlock market.
Did you hear that?
Kill off the what? Sorry.
The Pedersoli flintlock market. If
No,
Kibler
I don't
was,
think so.
yeah,
Right?
I think that Pedersoli's variety is what keeps them ahead. Myself, and I don't know that I'm not in any way speaking for Kibler, but I don't know that he's at all interested in kind of the military side of things.
yeah,
And that I think is
and
really
that's fine.
some of Pedersoli's bread and butter is the
Yep.
higher end production military side of things. I'm sure that there is some eating into just in general, just because it's a kind of a quality step up. I think.
Mm-hmm.
In my own
It
personal
is.
opinion, it's not to discredit Pedersoli at all. They make some nice stuff. I mean, this LePage back here is just beautiful, especially for
Oh,
a
yeah.
production gun. If you went back 50 years and told people that that's the kind of thing they could get production-wise, I think they'd be a little floored.
Yeah,
But I think that there is still capacity in the muzzleloading market. And I'm not saying that because I talk to these people and I talk to the companies and things, but there is not enough production and enough interest, or it's not full, I guess is how I would say. I don't think the market is full to start weeding people out. I think the people that are exiting because they have bigger markets that they're capitalizing on.
mm-hmm.
Is how I
And
look
that's
at
like-
it. And I'm
and
happy
like
to
you-
eat my hat, like I said. 5 years, if things change, I'll eat my hat.
And you're talking about the Pedersoli military muskets. This is the Shortland pattern. This is
Yep.
Pedersoli, and you can tell it's still dirty because I've been
Yeah.
shooting it a lot, and I keep on telling myself, I'm like, well, I should probably go clean that, and then I'm like, nah, I'll probably be back out with it again tomorrow. So, but that's another good thing about real black powder is it don't really rust. So, I mean, yeah, it's dirty, but it's still running. And I've been keeping very good track of this gun of the rounds I'm running through it. I've ran 176 rounds through this gun so far, and I'm up to 5 misfires.
Okay,
Like this thing has got
that's great.
an insanely reliable lock.
I think another thing too to consider with Pedersoli is the European market.
Mhm.
There isn't a market for their stuff here in the United States, absolutely, and there will continue to be. But they are kind of the big dog, really, in the European market. And I think as long as there is, muzzleloader friendly legislation in Europe, in the areas and the markets that they're in, I think they're going to be fine. Especially their expansion now into. I think I saw they have some even more modern leaning lever guns, which I think is kind of interesting to see them at a booth, offering flintlocks and, up into the lever gun stuff. It's kind of fun to see, but I think that they have enough of a market spread that they can support it even if there's not as much demand for the flintlock stuff. But what do you think, Garrett? What's Garrett think on that? I'd love to hear it.
I don't know if you can hear what's going on here because you ain't
I'm
got.
behind a few seconds.
Oh, he's behind a few seconds.
okay.
What are your thoughts on it?
On what?
On the if the Pedersoli Kibler eating the
I think
Pedersoli?
that it'll smoke their Blue Ridge Cabela's brands. I believe that's Pedersoli. I think it will in the United States take care of the smaller caliber rifles, not the smoothbores yet.
Right.
I think that if Jim Kibler offers a Hawken kit, that Pedersoli Hawkins in the United States might take a big hit.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, it's always fun to think about that. We don't just have one.
Yep.
There's a lot of folks out there that have almost every Hawken that's
All of
ever
them
been produced. In the mass market. Yeah,
he's one of them.
The poster boy for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a great and a very fair point that the introductory side of things, like the Blue Ridge, is a great consideration.
Yeah. this is one that I wanted to bring up here because this is our friend Stephen Mountain Man.
Yep.
He has a theory. He has an idea. You've heard of
The Ashley
Forgotten
Super
Weapons
Hawken.
talk. Yep, you've heard of Ian talking about the What Would Stoner Do rifle.
Yep.
Stephen Mountain Man wants a What Would Ashley Do, like the Ashley
cool.
Party of mountain men.
Yeah.
You know what I think?
What do you think?
1803 Harper's Ferry.
Yeah, I mean, in the recreations that have been made based on the documentation, it's very close. To that 1803. My buddy Bob Woodfill, who published that Hawken book, has done a lot of research on that because it's the kind of thing that we know a little bit about, but it's also something that's a lot of open-ended questions. I hope that we figure it out someday. But yeah, that'd be neat to see a muzzleloading manufacturer do that kind of move, because it's a little out there, I think, for muzzleloading. But I think it's the kind of thing that would be really interesting and really kind of energize both people that are into it now and people that are kind of tertiary interested and kind of just viewing from the sidelines. Maybe that kind of move would be really interesting to see, and to see how that plays out with enthusiasts in the market in general.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing I could see, like, a big player like Pedersoli. I think that they could experiment with that kind of thing too, kind of looking at the documentation and proposing what it could look like. Would be really interesting to see. Yeah.
Anyhow, talking to Stephen Mountain Man, and he might know, and if he doesn't know, there's another guy in the comment section I know would know, Turkey Creek. You might know. The 1803 Harper's Ferry was definitely out whenever Ashley and them went out. They went with Lewis and Clark.
Oh, it was definitely out, yeah.
So, you think any of them fellers might have brought one out there with them on the Ashley party?
Yeah, and you have to talk to Turkey Creek about that. But yeah, that was definitely a thing at that time.
It should be in the paperwork somewhere, because so much of that was, I can't say all, but so much of that was cataloged.
Yeah.
In what they took out there.
And that's what I'm kind of getting into right now. I'm definitely staying in Revolutionary War style, flintlocks and everything like that. But I've really gotten into the early 19th century flintlocks here lately.
Even back into Anthony Wayne's campaign, across Ohio and up through Indiana, he was drawing up and sending back to Knox when he was stationed in Pennsylvania ideas that he had for updated and changes to the military arms of the day, which is just super interesting. It's the kind I really want to find some of those plans, if any of them still exist.
Yep.
Because people were trying to figure out what the next step was. And it took a while for, at the time, a government, just like today, to sign on to a new idea like that.
Yeah.
But we can kind of see it then in the civilian market play out a little bit, like the Ashley Super Hawken, as it's called. As some call it.
Yeah. You're talking about just different developments. That's still a half cock. I keep on thinking it's full cock, but it's just because this lock is so weird.
So far back. Yeah, it kind of catches me off guard too.
Yeah, so I was like, but I think I can fix that. But this design, what I think is cool about it is you're talking about the different, what's the next step in whatever different arm. This thing it's so cool because of all the features it's got on it, and the original would have features even this one doesn't have. But you got things like a safety.
Yep, you got your
here on the side.
Yeah.
Which you can actually lock the cock into place where you can't accidentally discharge it. You have things like a rear sight on a smooth bore. You've got the captive rammer, which has been around for a while, obviously, but you got barrel wedges in what I think the original. I personally believe this gun was developed in 1800 with the for the 16th Light Dragoons. But the real thing on this gun that I find fascinating, and it's not on this reproduction, I wish it was, is they had a waterproof pan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Basically what it was is the pan was risen up out of where it would normally be, and the hammer is all rounded off, so whenever it would rain, they found that, and it was actually Henry Knock, same guy who built the Knock volley gun. He had his hands all over this thing. This is his baby. And he found that he had done some testing, and he found that the seepage, which this would be a prime example of showing how it would work, would get down here on these flats, and it would seep into the powder.
Yep.
So he found out you just raise the pan up, you make little drainage areas off of it, and it works a lot better. And
You
I'm going
see
to try
that
to do that
so
with this
much
one.
in some of the high-end English arms,
Yep.
Especially their fouling pieces. Those waterproof or air quotes around waterproof. You had varying degrees of success there, but you had that innovation happening, which was just super neat to solve the major problem of flintlocks. And it didn't really solve it because we're not using flintlocks today.
We're using percussion caps. It's more like moisture resistant.
Right. It aided you. It gave you better odds, we'll say. Depending on the conditions you're in, you're still keeping an eye on that pan for sure.
Yep.
But there's some really interesting designs that people can look up if they're interested in that, because it wasn't just a jump from the flintlock to the percussion lock. There were a lot of advancements to that, where we were trying to make that better and better before things just totally changed.
And I like I got my book that I'm reading right now, whenever Jeremiah doesn't steal it from me, that French small arms book, and I've been looking through that thing like crazy. And it's amazing because that book shows starting out with matchlock and then going to the 1707 and then the 1716 Marine model and then the standardized 1717. And it's amazing how that French model of musket went from that 1717 basically, and they started adding barrel bands, and then they would change this and they changed that. By the time it's all said and done, what that was originally just that 1717 has transferred over into, you get into the late 18th century, and they figured out if you tilt the pan down, you actually have a higher chance of ignition in those guns. And when you get to the end of the flintlock period with them, they have drums instead of pans that are self-opening, and it's just so cool. And I think that's part of the reason why I got into flintlocks is just as a kid, you think, oh, a flintlock's a flintlock.
Yeah.
And then you just start finding all these little improvements, and it's just it's interesting.
That's what's so much fun about it. There's so much history there. I always say there's something for everybody in muzzleloading, because you can even go down to like a decade in a region, or 5 years in a particular region, and there's a whole different school of things that you didn't necessarily consider before. Yep.
And I think one of the biggest jumps is right before they went to percussion caps. I mean, at least in the French world, just that from 1815 to 1825, that decade, there was a huge change in military firearms in France, at least.
Yeah.
But let's see here. Oh, we're gonna have to. What do you think about a market for an 1819 Hall rifle? I'll let you handle that one. It'd be cool.
Oh yeah, it'd be cool. I think I kind of defer. It looks like my video's frozen on my end. I hope it's not on your end.
I kind of see that. I can still hear you.
Okay, good. I think my country bumpkin internet might be struggling a little bit. I think Forgotten Weapons did a video on that a little bit. This week or last week, just about.
Oh, we lost him. Oh yeah, I'll just text him right quick and see if we can get him back on here. Just tell him to click on that link again. If you can hear me, Ethan, just click on that link again and it'll bring you right back. Well, I guess while I'm here, I'll tell you about this I'll talk about this for a second, because me and Garrett were just talking about this in the tractor the other day. And I think the Hall is a pretty interesting rifle. I would love to have a Hall. But Garrett brings up a pretty good point, and I think Doug Dukes had mentioned it too in his book, that the Hall rifle, the big problem with it is it had issues with basically, Ethan's internet got tired and went to sleep pretty much. You leak a lot of gas with that design. And Doug Dukes is talking about in his book that the Texas Rangers would actually take their Hall rifles and pull the breech blocks out of them and make them little square Derringers. They used them down in Mexico City. So, because they didn't like that gas blowback. So that's kind of what I'm thinking there. I mean, it'd be awesome to own a Hall. I'd love a Hall.
I'm going to bring you in another guest while you're waiting.
All right.
The Snapper has some questions for him, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to sit here and...
You can still...
to the snapper.
All right, do what you want to do.
All right. I'm just sitting here playing with this captive rammer. So yeah, if you can still hear me, Ethan, just click on that link I sent you earlier, and it'll bring you right back in here. Let's see here. Anybody got any more questions? How much was the carbine? So this little bad boy right here, I think it was all said and done $650, I think. Which, it seems kind of like a lot for something like this, but this is a base for a project that I'm going to have. Oh, there he is. We're back. He's back. Oh, you're back. No, okay? You're good. Yeah,
I forgot to put powder in the router. I don't know.
You forgot to prime your router, huh?
I forgot to prime the
You're
router.
using 1F.
Yeah.
But I guess, let's see here. I'll switch back to that. He's talking about the hall.
Oh, yeah. Switch back to the hall. I don't know where I cut off, but sorry, guys.
Yeah, you were talking about the hall. Let's see here. And I went on a little bit of a talk about it leaking gas.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily the best system.
But there you go. What do you think about a market for a hall?
I think there's I think there's a pretty limited market for it. I think it'd be really interesting to see it, and I think it'd be interesting to see what people do with it. And I think Forgotten Weapons did a really good video in the past couple of weeks about historic reproductions and some of the logistics of it. Where I think he covered a lot of the things, that of the difficulty that goes into reproducing something new like that one. And I think the hall and the entire hall series is something that many of us would love to have a reproduction of. I don't know that it's enough to support the production costs, but maybe it is. If things are growing that much, I think that'd be a wonderful sign. If there's enough of a market to reproduce some hall rifles, I think that'd be great.
I mean, speaking of me personally, it wouldn't be one of the first ones that I'd go for, but
right,
I would definitely like one.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
It'd be really cool.
I imagine there's a lot of people.
Can you build one from the rifle shop?
Yes.
Okay.
The rifle shop does have parts kits for them.
Okay.
Now, that being said, I believe that would be a lot like building a Ferguson. Maybe not as hard, but it would be definitely very, very advanced kit to build.
It'd be interesting to know how many of those they sell over a 5 to 10 year period to get kind of an idea of the interest in that, because the kit itself, you're right, it's like it's a very in-depth kit. You really have to know what you're doing, or send it to somebody who does. So that's kind of a limiting factor when you're looking at, or maybe trying to assume some of the sales data to get an idea of the market. But it would still be interesting nonetheless to know how much people are interested in that.
Yeah.
And again, what would you pay for one?
Yeah.
In comparison to some of the other pieces that are out there, because you have to imagine it'd be up in the 2s, close to 3.
Yeah.
And for a lot of folks, that can be a tough pill to swallow, especially for something that's not a must-have.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things. It's like you're saying. It's a niche. It's basically a I don't know what you'd call it. It's like just something you would have that's kind of a novelty. There's the word I'm looking for.
I wonder, I don't pay enough attention to the auction houses, but I'd be curious as to what an original might go for, and maybe an original in a lacking condition. Kind of compare that maybe to, I can't imagine it being produced, especially in a completed form, for less than 2.
Rock Island Auction sold a complete collection of every single model of hull that there was here, I think a year ago. And that collection went for, I can't remember exactly how much, but I will tell you this, it was high. Like it was, if memory serves me right, it was over $500,000.
Okay. Yeah.
And the reason why is because one of those hulls was a congressional presentation rifle to Ethan Everest, another Ethan.
Oh, yeah. There are dozens of us. Dozens.
We're everywhere. But basically what happened was that Ethan Everest, as a young man, had fought in the War of 1812.
Yep.
And he had held off a whole lot of British, and they presented him that rifle. Congress did later on. And what I found fascinating is he fought in the War of 1812, and yet he is buried not too far from where I live here in Kansas. Really? So he actually moved out to Kansas as an old man in the 1860s. So that's what you call a true pioneer.
Yeah, there you go. You have to wonder if he had, if that's where his plot was. Maybe he had that was part of his, I can't think of the words, but, the various soldiers and veterans, that was part of their payment back was
yep.
attractive land out farther west.
Out west? Yeah, it could be. Let's see here. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, boy, that'd be a pretty nice rifle to have, except for one problem. I ain't going to have near that much money.
Yeah.
Let's see. I purchased a ramrod from the rifle shop as the one for my haul disappeared. Oh, so you have a haul. Interesting. Let's see. I think I saw that.
There's the guy right there, man. Shoot.
Yep. He says, leak gas? Absolutely. I have a model 1843 Hall North. Yep. I hear that. I'm actually surprised I hear that the Ferguson, which I've never shot one personally, but I heard from a few people who have, and they say that it actually seals up fairly decent.
Yeah. Kind of like in a modern inline muzzleloader, those long threads, you have that long series of threads there, that does a lot. It doesn't capture everything, but it will contain quite a bit. I think that's one advantage the Ferguson had compared to other attempts at breech loaders for the time.
Oh, yeah. Let's see here.
The Ferguson itself kind of goes back to what we were talking about the use of rifles in colonial American times, because that was a very special unit the British sent out. They did not do well at all. But
Kings Mountain much? Kings Mountain?
Yeah.
That's what I loved. I don't want to get too much into it, but I love I think one of my favorite battles to study in the Revolutionary War is one that gets overlooked so much, but except for one source, and we'll talk about that in a second, but the Battle of Cowpens.
Yeah, that's
and there's only one place that really covered that battle, and it's the one that everybody loves to hate, and that's the Patriot. The problem is the Patriots actually fairly realistic on that battle. They get a few things wrong, like they show that the artillery is holding off the British as they're advancing up the hill. In reality, it was actually Morgan's rifles.
Okay.
And they also show that Cornwallis is there, but in all reality, Cornwallis was not there. Tarleton, or as they call him in the movie, Tavington, was the man in charge. And Cornwallis was actually sitting waiting for Ferguson to show up from Kings Mountain because he was bringing the reinforcements.
That's right, yeah.
And Ferguson ain't going to make it.
No. It's a big letdown.
But, big letdown there.
But it's interesting. That kind of goes to, we were talking earlier about the development of what led to the Baker. They were thinking about it as early, that early, and Ferguson's developments there and his ability to get that one military contract to get an application of it in the field was, you had them trying to change and trying to figure out what the next step was. It just took some time to get it totally figured out.
Yep. And that's what, okay, we're talking about the rifle thing again. I'll go back to the pattern 1776, which, oh man, I've been studying that thing a lot here lately. That's such an interesting story.
I love that. Keep that up.
It actually earned the nickname here in America as the turncoat rifle because most of them actually went to Benedict Arnold's unit that was made of American Tories. And I think they shipped 800 of them. They made 1,000 of them. They shipped 800 of them, or 800 of them were made in Britain. 200 of them were made in Germany. And most of them ended up in the hands of Benedict Arnold's guys. And yeah, it's an interesting story because that was, like I said, the Ferguson, which is the one that everybody knows about. I can't remember how many they made, but it wasn't near as many as the 1776s. And then the 1776 is just, that was the base for that Baker rifle.
Right.
But let's see here. Oh, there's Snapper. We're going to add Snapper in here.
Hey,
this is the guy.
Hold on one second.
Oh, we hear you.
Can you hear me good? Okay. We're good.
Yeah.
I had my YouTube playing in the background and I was trying to figure out the echo, but I got it. I'm good. I'm here.
Okay. I think you said you had a question for Ethan over here.
Yeah, a little bit. How much do you know on the British Sea Service pistol?
Military stuff is
military stuff, not so much.
No, I'm much more. I have nothing against the military stuff, but it's so complicated.
Yeah,
there's a
and there are so many experts.
And I don't. I don't want to tread on that and tread on the guys that have really done all that research. I'm kind of the same way with revolvers. Even like there are revolvers that I know and I enjoy. But I try to stick to where I know a little bit at least.
Yeah, no, understandable.
Because I believe, Snapper, you have an original Sea Service, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's a nice little pistol. It's okay for what it is.
I got a pretty good book on that subject. Do what?
No, it has the regular. I mean, it has brass accoutrements on it and whatnot. But it's regular steel.
Okay.
I thought a brass would be cool. I think there is a. I don't think it's the British Sea Service pistol itself that comes in brass, but there is certain ones obviously that do have brass barrels and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you know what year that one was made, Snapper? I think you said mid to early 17th or 18th century, didn't you?
Yeah, I want to say it was like 1805, if I remember correctly, because this one was
Napoleonic War.
Yeah, it was found at the Battle of New Orleans. Right after the battle. Yeah, I bought it from a person who ended up buying it from a museum, and it came from New Orleans. It was in a museum in New Orleans for a very long time, and they every now and then museums will sell off extra stuff they have, and that's how it came onto the market. And
if you can send me pictures of that, Snapper, I've got a bunch of books that I just got, and I've been pouring through them like crazy on Napoleonic War stuff. And I think I can get you quite a bit of information on that. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I would appreciate it. The only information I really got from it was sending pictures to the museum to, authenticate that this is the exact gun they sold. And, they definitely proved it because one of the screws on the inside of the lock is a Phillip head because somebody changed it at some point of time. Somebody I have no idea when or why or what, but yeah, it had that in it when it was being sold, like the pictures when they took it apart. So.
That's almost so nice.
It's sacrilegious. Oh, I know. It's completely sacrilegious. It needs to be fixed.
But something like that, that little human, I don't know. I just imagine, because I do it all the time, somebody was cleaning it or examining it or something, and they dropped that screw.
Lost the screw.
And it
lost the screw completely.
And
yeah, that is, I'm pretty sure that's probably what happened. I don't think it had broken because, the threads were still nice and tight in the plate. But I think all they did was whoever was working at the museum, when they lost this screw, they just found something. Hey, this fits and it works. And
it was on the
since it's in the back, yeah, it's on the inside lock. So you can't see it. So I figured they didn't care.
Well, everything Black Powder Snapper wants to know if you have a video on that pistol.
I only have a short on it of just kind of. I'll have a video on it. I actually do have video filmed shooting it, but I haven't made it into a video yet.
Well, you know what? If you did want to do a video on that, I can try to send you as much information as I can get on it.
It is.
That'd be great.
Pistol, after all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
It's the biggest problem I find with it is just Wikipedia is usually with the information you find on these things, and as well as I do, a lot of the information on the internet is either very sparse or just not correct.
Right.
So,
yeah, it can be tough to kind of wade through it sometimes. You gotta kind of note what you found and then go and make sure that's before you go.
Oh God, how do I know that with colds? My God, when it comes to just crazy information that is incorrect or dismissed, that
you kind of have that
around,
folklore built
colds,
around something. Yeah.
Colts are that way, definitely.
Yeah.
R.L. Wilson, your favorite guy?
Oh, yeah, my favorite guy ever. Yeah. When it comes to a person that I absolutely hate in the world, R.L. Wilson is one of them. And then hate's a strong word.
But you're using it in this instance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure you know who R.L. Wilson is, don't you, Ethan?
Yeah.
It's just even Garrett. It's the same way. You study anything on these guns, and it's after what R.L. Wilson did. with all the Colt collection and faking of guns and making books around guns that he had modified to make sound like, they're originally made that way to get more money out of, and then money laundering, selling guns. I mean, it's just so much to it that
you need like a documentary about some of these guys, just because.
Oh, you do.
It'd be so. I love like crime documentaries and things. Like, how did somebody get it going with this for so long?
Oh yeah,
and it's always fascinating to hear about.
I think he started out with the right intentions, but the people that I've met that knew him basically said he got used to a higher end lifestyle than he was normal to, and he wouldn't let it go. So he basically did everything to hold on to it, because usually for most people, wealth doesn't just get you into wealth and you stay there. A lot of people will get wealth and then go back down and get wealth. And he was one of those people who's losing it, and he did whatever he could to hold on to it. And pretty sad.
Well, not to change the subject or anything, Snapper, but I do got a question here, and I don't know how much we can help them, because it's kind of, well, I'll read it to you. Anybody with an opinion on Mississippi rifle reproduction guns, ball or mini, bullet best? Mine's a 58 caliber 3-degree rifling. Well, I'm going to pass the buck on that one, because I'm more of a flintlock guy, not really as much into the percussion guns. And I think Ethan over here was saying he's not much into the military guns. What do you know, Snapper, about Mississippi rifle reproductions?
I know
a bit, but I defer to Snapper here.
No, I'm going to defer to you guys. I don't know that much about them. I really don't. Revolvers is kind of my forte, and not long rifles yet. I'm not too educated in the long rifles yet.
Well, we'll have to get that going.
Yeah.
I think I've heard a lot on the Mississippi rifles that the minis or the miniers, however you want to pronounce it, was really, really prevalent. When you start to get to that era of things, I think try it and see how either goes. If it's going to shoot, I guess I'd have to look at some numbers, at least on the twist of the rifling. But generally the rule is the faster twist. You get into the conicals and things, but. I've had guys tell me that they can shoot both, or they can shoot either one. So I think it's going to come down to giving it a shot and spending some time at the range to get it sorted out. I know that's kind of a non-answer. I'll admit that.
Right.
But sometimes it just kind of comes down to trying it out. And, with the different kinds of productions that are out there, it's just hard to give a conclusive answer.
And I think I have to go with you on this one, because that rifle, what I do know of it is it was designed to shoot a mini ball. So...
Yeah, those Mississippi rifles, that you're starting to get into that era where you're getting into the military conical stage of things and leading up to the Civil War for sure.
Because I'm not really well versed on them, but I believe those are 1850s era rifles when they started developing those.
And that's an absolutely beautiful double on your profile picture, Rod's side by side channel. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, I have to check that out.
Yeah.
What kind of double barrel is that? All right, let's see here. If I had a lot of R.L. Wilson comments.
Oh, yeah, R.L. Wilson. Sorry, guys. I took a flintlock video into cap and ball revolver territory.
Man, I love hearing about it. It's always funny.
I found something kind of interesting that I don't know if you guys were too aware of. I wasn't at first, and I started looking at the burn rate and curve of black powder versus Pyrex.
Okay.
And when it comes to hollow-based bullets, black powder is far better than the substitute stuff for actually getting it to expand. Something about basically the black powder instantaneously detonates. It's so fast that it's unconceivable almost. And the Pyrex one isn't. It's kind of more like a fuse when it burns.
Yep.
And it just doesn't have that oomph at first to make the lead spread out really hard. It still works, but apparently black powder, you just can't beat it when it comes to hollow base bullets. Far better than using any Pyrex or whatnot. So if anybody's having issues with those, that could be why you're having it if you're shooting with Pyrex.
Oh, yeah.
And that correlates out too as to why the substitutes generally don't work well with flintlock ignition, because you need that instantaneous spark, and they're designed to be safer and to be able to be distributed where you can't distribute black powder. So that really makes a lot of sense, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I think that goes to a video that's going to come out tomorrow. Just a little spoiler alert. That was a question we had gotten we had gotten, and tomorrow's going to be a little bit of Q&A/mail call video. And somebody had asked us that question. And my response was, well, you can, but should you?
But should you?
You will become very frustrated really quick, but you might get a round to go down range.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen use Pyrex in the barrel and black powder in the pan?
Yeah, that's generally.
I've heard of that. Yes.
Yeah, that's generally the advice. If that's all you can get your hands on, and it's hard to get black powder, because for a lot of people, all you can get is substitutes. And if that's all you can shoot, please don't let that stop you from shooting. If people are saying you need to shoot black powder and things, don't. A lot of times that's just folks razzing, and kind of goofing on the modern substitutes and things. But if that's all you have, take it out there and do what you can to get it shooting. But yeah, that's if that's all you can get, and you can only get like 1 pound of black powder or something, that's what a lot of folks will say is prime your pan with it to get the ignition going with the Pyrex. And I think Everything Black Powder did a great video on going through a lot of that. So that's
did he? Well,
really
of course, I watched his video.
And I think
I watched a lot of his videos, and I don't remember it, but I'll check that one out.
I'd heard from it I heard it somewhere, and I can't remember where, but somebody was talking about it, competitions, that some people had done that. They would take and they would pour, actually, I think it was in that book I was reading the other night, Flintlock Muskets, they'd talk about they would put a little black powder in a pan, a little black powder at the base, and then put Pyrex on top. I don't know why you would do that. They say it's better, but I guess that's their opinion.
It's referred to commonly, I think, as a duplex load, perhaps. Where you're duplexing the types of powder that you're using. It's not necessarily a large charge, but you're kind of priming your main charge, even in a percussion gun, with that powder. I think that is, if you're at like an official NMLRA match, I don't think they allow or they ask that you not do that as kind of a safety precaution. But I have heard about people doing it. But as always with any of this stuff, make sure that you're doing it in a safe manner according to manufacturer recommendations and all that.
Yeah.
Well, don't clip this in court.
That shotgun is a BMI, or it's a Belgian 16.
That's his Belgian. I think the B is just big fingers on a keyboard.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh, that's my Belgian 16. Yeah, his like.
That makes sense.
What that was.
Belgians are gorgeous.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna go for just a little bit longer here, maybe another 3 or 4 minutes, because I know it's getting late. I think you're in Eastern time, aren't you, Ethan?
I am. I'm far enough east here, but I'm having a lot of fun, guys. This has been great.
Yeah. Well,
don't let me
go
keep
for a
you
little
up too. Don't.
Oh, trust me, we've been known to go for quite long, extended periods of time. I don't want to keep you up that long. But
the other day we went 4 hours. Like just the other day, Garrett and Duke.
I went to. I'll be honest. I was sitting there and I was in the chats and I was jumping from chat to chat to chat, and after a while, I was like, I'm getting tired. I'm going to go to bed, and went to sleep for an hour or so, and woke up. You guys are still going.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I blame Duke. He's just everything about Duke. He loves those long chats, and with him, you could keep a conversation going for eternity.
Oh yeah. Everything Black Powder said, he tried it, Snapper. He tested Pyrex and black powder in his P53 infield with mini balls, and the accuracy went out the window. So there you go.
There you go. That could kind of explain the whole using a Monet ball as well with the Pyrex not expanding it. That would make sense why it might not be as good for the accuracy.
Yeah. I'm just going to go through a few more of these here. Hardy had a question for you, Snapper. Historically speaking, are round balls, conicals, paper cartridges more common for 49 pocket models and 51 navies?
Yes. Especially during the 51 Navy time period, like around the Civil War. At that time, most people loaded conicals with paper cartridges. And conicals were definitely a thing for the 49 pocket. Even the very first Colts, there's always been a conical Colts. But paper cartridges, it would be common for both. I don't see too many 31 caliber paper cartridges, but I'm sure it was pretty normal.
Powder all up till the Civil War.
Garrett says mostly loose powder and ball.
Yeah, they didn't make the combustible cartridge till. I mean, they had it early, but the military adopting and using and all that stuff, testing it was much closer to the Civil War.
The industrialization to support that kind of thing too.
Oh yeah.
Drumming that up.
There's old Schlattschule. Howdy, Schlattschule. How's it going? Let's see here. Raw's Vintage Side by Side channel says it's 12:33 here, but I'm wide awake. Oh yeah, I think he said he's in Nova Scotia, so
that's right, yeah.
Really far east. I think, guys, that's about all we're gonna do. Schlattschule had said Burton Ball, so I don't know what that's referencing.
Is that the cleaner ball, the cleaner round that you had?
I think
that.
Oh, maybe
they call it a cleaner. It's just basically a Monet ball, but instead of the base being completely hollow, there's like a little plug in it. So the pressure would shove into that and expand into the rifling.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, guys, I think I'm about to call it. So, he said, no, what people calls mini balls isn't. Okay. Yeah. I hear you there. Alrighty, so I guess that's about all we're going to have time for tonight. So I guess without any further ado, Snapper, you got any future projects that you want to divulge?
The secrets.
The secrets.
There's lots of secrets at the moment. Since right at the moment, I'm going back and forth to Phoenix. There's not much, but I'm working on a couple projects in the background.
Super.
Yeah. What about you? Got any non-secret videos you're planning on doing here in the future, there, Ethan?
I've got some more bullet testing. I've got some interesting powders I think to try out. Those kind of do well and they're kind of fun for me to do. So there's some more of that coming out, and some other stuff that I'm still researching. I don't keep it secret, but
yeah.
I do want to I do kind of keep it a little close because I'm close to finishing, and it always kind of stinks when you have something going and then somebody does it better.
Yeah, or you do like me.
It sucks, doesn't it?
My problem is I get big plans and I put them out there, and then they never come to fruition.
Right, it's always hard to time things, So I don't want to. I've done that in the past where I've mentioned something, and then work picks up or family life picks up a lot, and it's 6 months to a year, but. I really have most of this year planned out, I think, with some fun stuff that I know I'm going to enjoy, and I hope that everybody out there that watches and tunes in does as well. But if you don't, I totally understand. There's a lot of muzzleloading stuff out there, though. So as long as you're interested in it and you're keeping engaged with muzzleloading and you're getting out there yourself, that's all I care about. So I appreciate you having me on, and it was always nice to talk with you guys. So really appreciate it.
But like I said, seriously, we are just happy that you accepted our invitation to come on here, because you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people who don't. But anyhow,
you got to cast a wide net,
Oh yeah, yeah. We only ask people we really like to watch their stuff. So there you go.
There you go, buttering me up again.
Oh yeah, I know. But this is our. You might see a lot of this showing up here in the future, but it might be a while, guys, because we're in the process of moving our range, because we're honestly tired of trying to make a historical video with whining high lines in the background. So we're going to be moving the range. We're going to have like a mail call video tomorrow and a Q&A, and that's about it. But prepare to see a lot of defarbing and history of Paget carbines coming up on my side of things. So anyhow, guys, I guess that's all we got for tonight. So
one more thing before we go.
Go ahead.
It was really nice to finally meet you, Ethan. Love your channel. Love everything you do for the sport and the hobby.
Thank you so much. It all goes this, right back to you, man. I love what you're doing, and like I said, I'm not well versed in the military and the revolver stuff. There's just so much advancement. So I really count on guys like you that are out there that really research it to kind of help inform how I think about it and how I move forward. So please keep it up. It's really great.
Thank you.
All right. Well, anyhow, as always, thank you for watching. Trust in God and keep your powder dry. Bye.